Hello again from my front porch. Yesterday was the big game here in Iowa, the Iowa State Cyclones versus the Iowa Hawkeyes. It is the intrastate rivalry. You can see who I support. I'm an Iowa State alumni and a proud supporter of the Cyclones, and that's actually kind of what I wanted to visit about today, because I've discovered that things seem to get more and more hostile between the fans of the two teams. Now, the two teams themselves, I'm going to be blunt with you. I support Iowa State because I went there, I'm an alumni. I also support the Iowa Hawkeyes, except for the one game where the two teams play each other. Then I like to see my team win, of course. That's the point of competitive sports, is you want to see your team that you support win. I totally understand that, totally get that. However, I do have to say that increasingly it has become more difficult for me to engage in the fandom of supporting. I mean, I watch the game. I enjoy watching it with other people, preferably other Iowa State people, as you'll understand more with what I'm gonna discuss. But I used. Those who are on my Facebook page know that I can be quite prolific when it comes to posting things on Facebook, and I can be opinionated. I don't have any problem sharing my opinion. However, I have really tried to be better about only discussing topics, of not discussing people, and of not being insulting, and to not making broad statements that use a big wide brush to paint a lot of people. And yet it seems that that's what the Iowa State rivalry has become. In the era of social media, what we now see, and you probably saw this before social media, maybe in bars or wherever people would get together, there might be a little smack talking between them. But what I see now is, because people can hide behind their keyboard and they can type whatever asinine little things they want to say, is there's some real mean-spirited stuff. Now, folks on my side, on the Cyclone side, are not by any, they're not angels by any stretch. I've seen some Cyclone fans that have posted some things that okay, that's questionable. But I gotta say, and maybe it's perception because I'm on the Cyclone end of it, but I have to say that it sure seems like the Hawkeye fans on the Iowa side are a little bit more at it. And by that I mean, they don't just say, we're excited for our team to win, your team's no good, you're going to lose, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. It gets really mean, gets very insulting, gets very personal. Things that, talk about how, the past judgment on the Iowa State fans for being so stupid and backwards and mentally handicapped. Yes, I have seen such things where those accusations are out there. And granted, I probably take a little bit of offense because I'm a Cyclone fan, but I also don't see that it really has any place in that discussion. I mean, ultimately, I hate to suck the air out of the excitement that is these football games, but it's a college football game, which means you have two teams of guys on both sides whose primary goal is getting an education. Supposedly, they are in the college of their choice to get an education. Now, they're paying for their education in many cases by being on the football team, and some of them may actually be able to go beyond. They may actually make it to Pro Bowl. They may get into the NFL with their football skills, and great for them. However, they won't play football their whole life. They're going to have some kind of knowledge other than just how to run around on that football field, or they're going to need to invest their money extremely well to support them for the rest of their life. My point being, we the fans are the ones that turn this into the mess that it seems to be becoming. The guys in the field, of course, they want to win. They want to play their best football possible, and I admire them. Even the team, when Iowa and Iowa State play, I admire the Iowa players and the skill that they demonstrate. I get a little frustrated with referees sometimes because, well, sometimes I question the skill of referees, but that's a whole different topic. But the guys on both sides, they're under a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, these are not people who are getting paid to do this per se. They're getting paid because of scholarship to attend the university, and that does count. However, it's not like they're NFL player that's making millions and millions of dollars, to do this game to entertain people. This is their extracurricular activity, really. They're in college, and this is what they do in addition to their college stuff. And we all expect them to be these gods on the field, and when they don't do it, when they come up short, we all go after them because apparently that's who we've become. And that's the part that really bugs me. It's not even the Iowa State thing. I could never really, I support Iowa when they're not playing Iowa State, but I could never really be a Hawkeye fan. Mostly because a lot of the Hawkeye fans, not all, I know some really good, decent people who are really great about demonstrating their support for the Hawkeyes without being nasty. But I unfortunately know a lot of Hawkeye fans who can get very nasty. And I wouldn't want to be hanging around them when they did that. Just simple. Even if I was there to cheer on the Hawkeyes, I would not want to be party to what they were spewing out, and I certainly would not want to hang around those people while the Iowa State game is going on, because I want to enjoy the game. I want to watch the skill of these players on TV. I don't want to constantly be defending in a verbal barrage of insults and hurtful comments. Now, it's not that I'm trying to be all, oh, there are my feelings. That's not at all. Because trust me, I can fire back as I need to. I can defend myself. I can. What I'm saying is I'd rather not have to. That's what I'm saying. Because there's no need for it. There's no need for this. And as I've thought about it, the more I've thought, it really comes down to a matter of arrogance. That's how arrogant is someone going in, and here's the other funny thing about this. Us fans, none of us are on the field. None of us are out there actually doing what it is. So we're sitting back talking smack about what our team, we are going to do this and you're that, and we are not doing anything but watching. So there is no we are going to do anything. It's what they are. Anyway, I digress. Not complete digress, but a little digress. Here, let me say it this way. My interpretation of the difference between a Cyclone fan and a Hawkeye fan is that a Hawkeye fan expects to win. They expect their team is going to win, and if they don't win, then the world, they come unglued, and it's the referee's fault, it's the cheating of the other team, it's the weather conditions, it's sleep, it's anything possible. In many cases, even the coach. We need Kirk Ferentz's head on a platter. Oh, wait, he won? We like him. If they lost, put his head on a platter again. There's always something or someone to blame for why the Hawkeyes didn't win, because they should have won. Every single game, they should win. That's the belief. Cyclone fans were a little bit different in general. We actually don't expect our team to win. I know that sounds like a shock. That sounds surprising. Like, well, why would you even follow a team? Because there's more to enjoying these sports than just does your team win all the time. But stay with me. We don't expect them to win. We want them to win. We hope that they win. We will celebrate like crazy if they win, mostly because we will be as surprised as anybody that they did. It's a joy. It's like, yes, they won. However, if they lose, we're like, eh. So then when you have a situation like the Iowa State game, where now in this case, this game that we just had, Iowa State lost. They only lost by 3 points, and it was in overtime. So it was a very hard-fought and close game, and the Hawkeyes very well could have lost it. That hasn't stopped the Hawkeye fans from being all, we won Iowa State, you missed it by the you were so close, and that's just, it's like, why? Why? What is the purpose of that? Does it actually make you feel better? Well, okay, good for you, but it makes me really question your character. It just does. Because true sportsmanship does not talk like that. True sportsmanship says, hey, whew, that was a good game. You guys fought hard. You know, we won, and you know, I'm glad that we won. But you know, you guys did a good job. You know, it's whew, I was a little worried there for a while. You know, that's what a good sportsmanship conversation sounds like. But that's not what happened in this instance, and it's not generally what happens. And again, I think that's born out of a sense of arrogance, because the other way to look at this is, in using the Iowa State example, if someone from Iowa puts down the Cyclones and says, "Hey, Cyclones are an awful team. They're horrible. You know, we beat them because they're so bad." Stop and consider that your team only beat the Cyclones by 3 points. That was in overtime. So you barely beat the team you're saying is so bad. That doesn't say much for your team either. Now, yes, you got the win, but not by much. You had to really fight for that against a team that you're saying is not any good. What does that mean for the rest of your schedule? Because the Iowa Hawkeyes play in the Big Ten. That's some pretty stiff competition. So, just like the Iowa State Cyclones need to continue to improve, they don't need to. They didn't lose by much, and so they just need to continue to improve. The Hawkeyes won by very little, and they're about to face some really tough teams. Will they have what it takes to beat the other teams, since they barely beat the team that apparently their fans say isn't a very good team? See what I'm saying? Again, it goes back to the question of arrogance, and or boastfulness, pride, whatever you want to call it. But I think arrogance is the right term to use in this context, because I really got to thinking about how this stretches beyond just sports. I've worked with people who worked with and for people who had a tremendous amount of arrogance, that they were very puffed up about their skill and their abilities, and they were constantly putting others down, because that was how they elevated themselves, was by diminishing somebody else to elevate themselves up. And I didn't like those people. Nobody else liked those people. They may be effective at what they do, and they may wind up getting accolades. They may wind up getting raises or bonuses, whatever, because they get the job done. But very few people like them for how they get the job done, because they do it with this huge cloud of arrogance around them. And I know I keep saying it's not a political show, but I mean, think about our national level politics. Donald Trump is our president right now. Donald Trump is the embodiment of arrogance. And the reason I say that, you can say that's hurtful, that's an attack. No, I mean, Donald Trump has made a fortune for himself based more on using his own name as leverage than anything else. I mean, he literally made his name a brand. That seems to be to me, that's the definition of arrogance. And so here's Donald Trump, who's now become president of the United States because of his arrogance, because he will stand up and he will say, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe, and this is why I'm not going to change, and this is why I'm sticking to it. And he got millions and millions and millions of people to support him, to vote for him. Now, he's not by any stretch the only one. In fact, I could make the case that his predecessor, Barack Obama, had just as much arrogance. He didn't show it in as many, shall we say, immature ways as Donald Trump tends to do, but with the Obama administration, everything was about Obama. There were hardly ever any appearances from any of his cabinet members. He was always the mouthpiece for everything. Anything that was going to be done was stuff that he wanted done, and if he sent something to Congress, he expected the Democrats in Congress to get it done, and if they didn't, well, then he would come out with speeches and he would attack, and because, again, his world revolved around him. Now, again, he didn't do it as abrasive as Donald Trump does, but he was still just as arrogant. Now, this is a good example, though, because people still like Barack Obama. People tend to tolerate Donald Trump. Now, both have their diehard supporters, and it wouldn't matter what either of them did, it wouldn't change. That's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the middle of the road, independent kind of people. Those individuals, they still think favorably of Barack Obama, because even though he had arrogance, he didn't shove it down everyone's throat. Now, a few times I would say he did. But in general, he didn't. In general, he tried to be just, he smiled a lot. He tried to be very personable. He tried to be very human, and that played well for him. Donald Trump does not do that. Donald Trump does not make any attempt to be anybody but Donald Trump. And so there are still some people there are still a large group of people who support him politically because they like the stuff he brings to the table. And I'm not judging or commenting on that whatsoever, but there are people who are more to the middle of the road that are starting to think, man, I wish he wouldn't use his Twitter so much, and I wish he wouldn't spout off things like he does so much. I wish he wasn't so immature about how he's done. And it goes back to that root of arrogance. That Donald Trump believes that because he has the idea in his head, it deserves to be shared and it's important. Well, no, actually, President Trump, no, not always. It's not always important. And sometimes it's better if you don't say anything. And that might be better for everybody. And I'll circle this back now to where we started with the Iowa State fans. Sometimes the hateful comments, sometimes the nasty grams, sometimes the slurs against an entire group of people are totally unnecessary. In fact, most of the times are totally unnecessary. And when they are done with this huge amount of arrogance shoved at somebody, it only turns everybody else off and it makes you look pretty classless. So anyway, that's my soapbox for the Iowa State situation, and just in general, really consider, how do you come off to other people? Do you come off personable? Do you come off as somebody who is likable? Do you come off as somebody who is seen as a good person no matter what? Or do you come off as somebody who is a good person when it suits you? And that you come off as arrogant, abrasive, condescending when it suits you? All of us are guilty of that. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I have to ask myself these same questions. But sometimes it's worth pausing for a moment and considering, what is it I'm about to say? Do I really need to say it? And what is the point of it in the first place? Is the point of it to actually share something that is really relevant and really important? Or is it really just something I'm sharing because I want to share, because it's something that I am being arrogant about, or that I'm being boastful about, or I'm being prideful about? It's good to consider those things. I'm not saying that it's always bad to talk about yourself. Obviously, these videos themselves, here I am talking to you, and some might say, well, that's pretty arrogant of you, Paul, on you're talking. I understand, I get that. But I'm not talking about just saying, hey, I accomplished this, I did this thing, or I want to share with this stuff. That's not, in my opinion, arrogance. To me, arrogance is when what you believe, that you think what you believe is superior to everyone else's, and you don't care what anybody else says. You're just going to shove it out there, shove, and if you have to insult people and run them down and mock them and belittle them in the process, well, so be it, because this is important to share and it's right. See, that doesn't sit well with me. Anyway, I could babble on and on like this for a long time. You probably tuned out long ago and didn't even make it to the end of this one. But seriously, I do encourage, because now the political season may be done, but we're into sports season. Football, the college and NFL football will be happening, and before too much longer, we're even going to start into basketball seasons. And all kinds of sports rivalries, high school rivalries, college rivalries, all these things happening. Just really stop and consider. Are you being supportive of your team, or are you just being an arrogant jerk? It's a good question to ask. And so with that, I will see you next time from my front porch.